All right, welcome back to another episode of the Rehashables. I got my tan. I'm back from Florida. Got a lot to talk about. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. We got a run happening here. Weather's getting warm, but now it's like if you look at the list of movies coming out in the next few months, man, we're gonna be on a tear, and not including all the incredible TV shows there are right now. So there's like a lot going on. So
Yeah, we're watching a lot of stuff. It was actually nice being on vacation because I actually watched more things on vacation than I would normally at home. I was up before the kids, so I would be just watching some stuff on the couch before they woke up, or if I stayed up a little bit later, I'd watch some things. So I feel like I got a chance to watch some things. I got caught up on a bunch of things, and we have a lot to discuss today and a lot of things to discuss in the weeks to come. So a couple things.
Mhm.
I was hoping to talk about what we are going to talk about today, just so anyone that's listening knows what they can expect from the podcast. Big thing that we're going to discuss on the top of the pod is Sinners. So we'll get into that in a couple minutes. That's all the conversation I think right now when it comes to the movie world. You loved it.
Can't freaking wait to talk about this movie.
Same. Other thing we're going to talk about, Celtic City, 9-part Boston Celtics doc by our boy Bill Simmons, good friend of the podcast. We'll talk about that. That was awesome. I also love that.
Yep.
You finished a show called The Pitt, which is big talk on TV shows right now, so we'll get to that. Talk about some things that we're in the middle of, not quite done yet, that'll be done in the next few weeks. So maybe some things that we're looking forward to, and then going from there. So,
Sounds
that
great.
all sound good?
Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome pod.
Love it. Before I get to that, if you are listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe, please like, please comment. That would be awesome. If you're listening to it on Spotify, Apple somehow, and you're not following the podcast officially on there, please do that. That would be awesome as well. So we do this once a month. And like we've always said, like these are conversations that we're having every month, and we just decided to record it, put out a podcast. So makes it fun.
Yes, it does. I look forward to it all the time, and it kind of forces both of us to like watch even more stuff. So,
Yeah.
which is
Okay. So let's jump into Sinners then,
yeah.
because that's the perfect example of
Mhm.
kind of a podcast pushing me to watch this. I did not know anything about Sinners. Like I had never heard of the title of the movie until after it came out. Like I not even on my radar at all. Had you heard of it before?
Yes, and I watched the trailer a long time ago, and it didn't like move the needle for me. Other than it was Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, like that was like okay, well they have enough of a track record that it's gonna be good. But the trailer was not like anything like that. Oh my gosh, this is a must see movie.
Yeah. I never saw the trailer. Like I said, never heard of it. I was on vacation. I think it came out that Friday. A few days later, it was all over my social media. And I was like, as soon as I get home, I'm going to go see this movie. And I did. It was, I think I went to like a 9 o'clock showing at IMAX. And there's probably like 15, 20 people. But it was freaking great seeing it on IMAX. And I loved every second of it. Where'd you see it?
I saw it. Unfortunately, I couldn't. It wasn't on IMAX because I go up in Newington, and at that Regal is really good, but the Accountant 2 was taking over the big theater there. So
Yeah.
I just saw it in normal theater. But again, this is one of those movies that has been getting buzz, and it's like everyone that says how good it is, and they also then in the same breath talk about how to see the movie and
Yeah.
to see it on IMAX or 70 millimeter, all these different kind of versions that there are out there, and what a different experience that it could be. So unfortunately, I didn't have that, but I am pumped that you saw it on IMAX.
Yeah. No, it was great. I don't know that I remember a movie being talked about on in terms of the best way to see it, the best format to see it, quite like this one has. I shared a video with you through text about Ryan Coogler breaking down all the different versions of where to see it and how there's like 12 theaters to see it one specific way, and there's another 8 theaters in the country to see it another way. And obviously it was intended for IMAX and special viewing and stuff. No, I'm glad I saw it there. It was amazing in IMAX. It's always a good time to go to an IMAX theater.
So all right, so let's dive right in, because you went in there knowing, like, did you go in like not knowing it's a vampire movie? Or like,
No, that would be ridiculous. So
Okay.
I definitely. So by the time I went to go see it, I knew there's vampires. I knew there's Ryan Coogler. I knew Michael B. Jordan was in it. I think that might be it, though. I mean, I knew it took that.
Did you know that Michael B. Jordan played two people?
I did before the
Okay.
movie. Did you know that? You obviously did.
I did know that. Yes. Yeah.
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 So let's talk about that, because I think that's one of the big things about the movie. Michael B. Jordan plays two people, and one Smoke, one Stack.
Yep.
That's their names. And is this pinnacle of one person playing two characters in a movie ever?
I mean, it has to be. I mean, the only other one that really comes to mind, like a lot, was obviously Armie Hammer. In the Social Network
Yeah.
with the twins. But like, I saw this thing online or whatever, and it said Michael B. Jordan is so charismatic that he has chemistry with himself. You know what I mean? And he freaking like it's you think it's two people, and you can clearly tell there is like a difference between how he carries himself, how he walks, how he smiles, everything about it. It's unbelievable they could do this. First of all, the technology's like because it is like so realistic, it's crazy.
I will say, outside of the first time that I saw them on screen, it never crossed my mind again. Like I just watched it like a normal movie, and it might as well have been two of those people throughout the thing. Like the way it's filmed and the way things are now, I had no clue that that's what was going on. Like my brain was able to move on from it, which says quite a lot for a movie.
Crazy. It was crazy and good performance by him because he obviously carried the movie. He's the biggest name. He's a movie star, But just like dive because almost let's dive in now and talk about the movie because it is really almost two movies. The first 50 minutes or so is one movie, and then the second, and then the last hour is a completely different movie. It takes a turn, and I enjoyed both aspects of it. So
let's talk about that. So the first half is I almost kind of equate it to like assembling the Avengers, and like not quite in the same way, but like the first half is introducing you all the different characters and some backstory, seeing what their relationships like, and kind of getting them all into one place where the more horror vampire aspect of things can take place. So the first half of the movie is more like a period piece in my eyes. 1930s, Mississippi Delta, Smoke and Stack, both of the Michael B. Jordan characters from this area. I guess they went to Chicago, dealt with it's Corleone.
No, Al Capone.
Al Capone.
Yeah.
Okay, so like Chicago mob stuff, dealt with them. Now they're coming back. They have some money, and they're reconnecting with all these people from their past.
Yeah, and they do a great job of like all through the dialogue, like exactly who these people are, who the side characters are, and kind of assembling this crew that's going to be going where they're opening up this dance bar or so. They're trying to
call it a juke club.
They call it a juke club. It's basically for people to come. And besides Michael B. Jordan, the only other kind of star in this movie is their little cousin, who's an extremely talented musician. They know he is, and they want him to come be part of the musical entertainment at their new juke club. And
Did you say a star?
What?
Did you say a star?
Like almost like a prodigy? Like I mean, you kind of can tell. Like,
not like outside of the movie.
No.
He's not like a star coming into the movie. Like he's a no name. He's a freak.
A preacher.
He could be a star at this point, but like I never heard of the guy before the movie.
No, I meant more of like he is a prodigy. I mean, obviously he's very talented in real life and that kind of stuff, but how the twins kind of see him is just an extremely talented musician, and it goes on, from there. But that's kind of the catalyst of the movie, I think. Looking at it is just he's special. Is that he's got this special talent, and he's showing it off to everybody, and that kind of what drives the story.
So the start of the movie is this character. His name's Sammy Preacher Boy. The actor is Miles Caton.
Yeah, I'm not. Sounds right.
Anyways, it's one of those scenarios where he comes into a church. His dad's a preacher, and he's covered in blood, cuts, looks like a freaking mess. You're not really sure what's going on. He drove a vehicle to get there, gets out, and then like walks into this church. I think his dad embraces him, and then it kind of cuts to one day earlier. One of those scenarios. So you get that as a setting, like that that's what the movie's going to end with. And then it kind of goes back. So you do get that like hints of the vampire stuff, but it really does become that period piece again, and it does start with him as being the main guy.
And he obviously is holding a guitar, and music is what kind of drives the full force. So let's like kind of just get to the first, like I said, the first 40 minutes period piece. Awesome character building.
So you liked it though.
I loved it. I loved it. It was one of my more favorite movies I've seen. I mean, that's up there with like The Brutalist and Anora and the Academy Award movies that we saw a few months ago. I enjoyed every second of this movie. Even some people might think it's a little slow at the beginning, but the character building, I mean, you feel like you're there, like really much so, so much so.
I liked it more than I would have thought that I would, because it is definitely slower, and it's all the things that you said: the characters, the connections, some storytelling just through the setting. It reminded me a little bit of the Killers of the Flower Moon in the sense that you felt like you were really there. Like instead of seeing a movie, you're seeing a window into what it was like in the 1930s Mississippi Delta. Like, this is what it's like on the plantation and the stores and the way people interacted and, you know, trains and all that stuff. So I really did like that part.
Yeah, great character building, and I thought your example of like the Avengers kind of thing is awesome because they're literally going around, they're kind of separating, and they're going around to get people, another musician to bring to the club, a guy who's like kind of gonna be the bouncer, and they need him to kind of be there. The two Chinese grocery store owners, they were kind of gonna go because they were gonna bring the food. They were gonna go get stacks of his ex-wife or girlfriend or whoever to cook the food. So it was like this good little 10-minute conversations between all these people and getting them under one roof for the big, like...
Let's talk about some of those people real quick.
I missed one very, very important person who kind of I thought also was like an awesome star of the movie, my girl, Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, so let's talk about her. Her name's Mary, and I think her mother raised Smoke and Stack. There was a relationship between those people and their mother, who had recently passed away, I guess. She had a relationship with, I think it's Stack, like you said, right?
No, she was with Smoke. Stack was with the other woman.
No. Okay, I'm reading my notes. It's actually the other way around. She's
okay.
Well, at least this is what my notes say. Stack was with Mary, and then Smoke was with Annie, who was played by her name's Wunmi Masaku, and she was great.
She was phenomenal. Yeah.
And come to find out that they had was it miscarriage or a child born then? I don't know that
it looked like a child born because it had the footprints on the gravestone.
Yeah.
So it must have been more than that.
So they obviously have like a history together.
Yep.
Which is cool. They went and got Delta Slim. Remember Delta Slim? He's played by Delroy Lindo. He's a super cool guy.
Yep.
They also got, was it Cornbread?
Yep.
Who else they have? There's a bunch of
And these are the Chinese grocery owners and stuff.
But so basically, the first part is setting up that they have this money. They bought this place from some Klansmen, which we'll get back to after this building. And they're going to turn it into like a juke joint, a juke club or whatever it is. They basically have a big party, and it's going to be like a thing. So they do that, and all of these people go here. It seems like a big deal where they live, where just basically everyone from that town or that area, the plantation, they're going there. And Sammy Preacher Boy is going to play some music. People are going to do some gambling, obviously have some drinks, and it's a big party. Looks like a pretty good time.
It looked like an awesome time. So let's get to the one thing. So they get everyone there. People are drinking, having a freaking awesome time, a party. And let's talk about the first time that the kid actually starts playing guitar and sings a song. Because I thought this was the coolest part of the whole freaking movie.
Go ahead.
Do you
want me to tell you the name of that song? Do you know what it is? It's called Lie to Me.
Is it? Okay, it sounds incredible.
I was listening to it just to get right in the headspace of it, but it's all obviously on Spotify, and it's called Lie to Me. But when he played that, it was the scene where like they talk about music transcending time, right? Like
exactly.
All of a sudden they have like a guy with an electric guitar out there and stuff even further in the past, and the building kind of burns down around it. There's ashes from the ceiling, like. It's a very cool scene. There's no doubt about that.
Then the song is awesome. It's just how it's visually filmed. It's almost like it looks like it's filmed kind of in one take, the way the camera is like moving and like going in and out of people and the choreography of it. And when I saw that scene, I felt like that is when like things are like, is everything before that scene and there's everything after that scene. That was such like a big moment and stuff of it, and just like really sticks out for me in the movie.
It's called I Lied to You.
Yep.
And it's definitely going to be the trademark scene of the movie, or one that people talk about when they look back when it comes to award season, which we'll get to. But yeah, that was a very pivotal part just for viewers, but also a big part in the movie, because at least the way that I've heard things interpreted is that him playing that song kind of caught the eye of the vampire, caught the ears of the vampire people. It kind of attracted them over to the party, which we'll get to. So big scene in the movie for that reason as well.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the vampire?
Let's talk about the vampires, because that was how they portrayed vampires was just so unique and interesting from the opening scene of when you first get introduced to him. What was his name again? The guy that's Remick. So it's interesting. With this, I thought you actually need to, going to this movie, need to have a little bit of like vampire knowledge that they don't even like directly address, which I think is awesome in the movie.
I did not realize that the rules that they have for the vampires were like the common rules for vampires.
Universal rules.
Yeah.
It's really like universal made up rules.
So okay, can we talk about those rules?
Yes, we can.
So rules are obviously
Yep.
can't be out in sunlight.
Nope.
That's a big thing,
Yep.
right? That comes into play when we introduce the Remick. He's running to a home as what, the sun is rising?
No, the sun is setting.
As the sun is setting.
It's that night. It's
yeah,
that
it's,
night.
okay. I wasn't sure if it was that morning of that same day. But anyways, yeah. So he's running and he's like freaking burning up because of the sun. Anyway, so there's that. There's garlic. There's silver bullets or silver metal. Silver.
Yep.
There is this is one I did not realize. They cannot enter a building without being invited.
I mean, that's the biggest like whole thing of the movie. So if you don't, I did know that about vampire. You cannot let a vampire cannot come into your house unless it is invited. That is a rule. It's been the rule as old as time. So if anyone ever comes to your house and asks to come in, and you don't know who they are, just say no. It could be a vampire, and they're not allowed to come in unless they are invited. So, but they don't ever say that really until like many times, which is awesome, you know.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then you have Remick, the main vampire guy, goes into a home and he's being chased by some Indians.
Yep.
And it's not like they followed him right to this house, but they show Remick going to the house.
Yep.
A couple Klansmen, a husband and wife, and at some point, Indians go to those people's door, and the wife answers the door, and she's totally normal. Has a conversation with the Indians, asks if they've seen anyone. She said no, but they really have. He was out back with her husband. She closes the door. When she goes back there, the vampire has gotten her husband and then gets her, and now the three of them are vampires.
Yep. Awesome. So three of them are vampires, and they want to go have a fun time out.
Yeah, so they're the three that are attracted to the juke joint party because of the music that Sammy Preacher Boy's playing. So, anyways, those three show up to the door, being like super creepy. I mean, they don't outright look like vampires. I mean, they have, the behind view shows that there's bites and cuts and all that sort of stuff. But the front view, they're talking. You can tell there's something a little bit weird. But they're obviously trying to get into this party. But they're obviously three white Irish people, and the black people are not going to let them into this party at all. So they kind of turn them away. But I really enjoyed that interaction, just watching that conversation.
The interaction, and then because what they wanted to do was they wanted to play music. The music was what attracted them there, and they all showed up with guitars. And Remick, the main guy, is of Irish descent, so he knows a lot of like Irish songs. And then the three of them start like belting out this beautiful like Irish, jig song.
Yeah.
It's great. They sound awesome, but that wasn't enough to get them in the door.
They must have been practicing that all day because that was great.
But another thing which is interesting about this, so another thing with these vampires is so all of their memories are intertwined. So that's how they're able to all, like I was like, how are they able to practice or rehearse that? They obviously were all in Remick's brain, and Remick was able to,
It's like they're all of one person at that point. I mean, they have characteristics of the person that
they know their
they
history
were,
still,
but they're also part of like this overall vampire person or consciousness. So, anyways, they get turned away because they just weren't feeling it. Something wasn't right. And I don't know. I think the conversation shifted to money, if I remember correctly. Talking just about like not having a lot of money, and then Mary is like, "I'll go talk to them, maybe try to get some money from them."
Yeah.
And I guess I did see the trailer, so like I knew she became a vampire, but like that she went to go talk to him, and she pretty quickly became a vampire herself, and they did not show it, and they didn't do that for a lot of the people to kind of leave this potential that they weren't really vampires, but they obviously were.
It was so interesting to see how they would interact, how they would act as vampires without other people knowing, because they didn't, like you said, incredible job of like walking that line of like they're still like them and acting normal, but they're a little bit different with that. And Haley Steinfeld's the second, Mrs. Josh Allen, the second biggest name in the movie behind Michael B. Jordan. So her turning that early and her going back and then letting her in is kind of what again catapults like everything. And the way she carried herself as a vampire was freaking awesome. So
yeah, it was totally awesome. Let's talk about Haley Steinfeld for a second.
Yep.
What else is she in?
So she got her big start in the movie True Grit with Jeff Bridges. She was a kid. I think she was like 10 or 11. I think she was nominated for Academy Award in that movie. So she was awesome. An awesome kid actor in that movie. I don't know if then she became like a Disney kid or something like that, but she became a musical artist. She was in like Pitch Perfect 2 and a few other movies, but mostly as a musician. Like she was a pop star, very
Yeah.
popular with young kids. And then most recently, a few years ago, she was in Hawkeye, right?
Oh yeah.
The MCU show.
Yeah.
She plays Hawkeye's like prodigy, and she'll be back in the MCU. She'll be they said she'll be back somewhere, maybe in the new Avengers movie.
So
But
she can't be that old.
I
Because
I
I think back to the Hawkeye, she seemed like a kid
yeah.
in,
I'll find out
in
right now.
like
But
high
I
school.
think and she just got engaged to Josh Allen, the
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills QB, which is awesome. She's 28 years old, so that's like Josh Allen's age. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but she's obviously has a young look to her. But she's been around for a while.
But yeah, she was great as the vampire, and then she brought everything into the juke joint, and that's when was it? Why am I going to Stack? Yeah, she's with Stack.
I'm still not positive about that, but I'm just gonna roll with it for this. I'm like,
Yeah, it's Stack and Mary. Stack and Mary are together. So, anyways,
Stack and
when
Mary.
she comes back, her and Stack go into the back room,
Yep.
and that's when freaking Stack turns into a vampire.
Early.
And I'm just like, holy shit! Like that happened freaking pretty fast.
Yep.
And then kind of all hell broke loose from there.
Yeah. All hell broke loose. They ended up, but he was already in the house. But then, what happened was after they found out he was dead because they thought Stack was dead, everyone left the party. And when everyone left the party except 6 people, all of those, like, I don't know, 50 people or so were basically just a feeding frenzy for the vampires that are out there. And everybody then turned. So there's a group of literally 50 vampires outside the building who aren't allowed to come in. And basically there's like 6 people left to defend themselves. And what can happen?
So Stack is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that was like an emotional scene for Smoke to come like figure out like what happened. They lock him in the room, but then all of a sudden Stack gets up, and it's like a conversation through the door of Stack and Smoke. Like Stack's trying to get out, and there's people telling him like, "That's not your brother. It's not your brother." And then he starts banging his head against the door, and there's just a lot of tension. And he eventually gets out.
Yeah,
obviously, I think he knocks down the door, and then he runs out.
Yeah,
and so it did give the main like 6 or 7 people in the building, which were Sammy, Annie, I think Delroy, or Delta Slim, I should say, the Chinese,
only one
of the woman.
Yep.
It left them some time to like kind of figure out what was going on, because once Stack left, he couldn't get like they couldn't come back in for the same set of rules that we were talking. They can't come back in, so it gave them a chance to like kind of get their weapons, get their stuff together. They had a little bit of a conversation about the garlic and the silver, all the kind of set some of the groundwork on the rules before they ultimately got back in, and then like the bigger fight kind of took place, which I thought was very cool how that happened as well.
So Annie, so Smoke's love interest in this was very pivotal in this and they kind of alluded to this earlier when they had a conversation. So she has maybe some experience with like voodoo or magic or something from like the other world, and it plays in a little later on. But when she first Smoke goes to see her, Smoke says, "Are you still wearing my necklace?" So she put something in like a necklace that he wears around his neck or so, and that ended up, I think, playing a role later on. But she's the one. She's like the classic character in the movie that is like knows what's going on and then can lay the ground rules out.
Yeah.
And that's when they're all able to like get wooden stakes to put the vampires through the hearts. Steel. They all have to eat garlic. Going around there, that circle, that was a great scene where they all had cloves of garlic, where she made them all eat to prove that there was, they weren't a vampire and stuff. And, what ended up catapulting everything into the movie was the Chinese woman. Her husband was out there and turned and stuff. And she was afraid that they were going to go kill her daughter.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So instead of letting that happen, which is great, well played by the vampires, because that's exactly how it's done. You threaten that, and then all of a sudden she's just like, "Screw it, I'm going to invite them in," just to
divert them. It's awesome. What a scene when she yells, "Come on in!" She yells, and then you see the Remic's eyes like light up, and then they freaking an awesome fight breaks loose.
Yeah, it was just a great fight, and end of the day, like, basically, like, everybody died. Like, all the people that were in there for the most part died. Annie, again, who Smoke's love interest, mother of their child, all that stuff, she before the fight happened, said that like for Smoke not to like let her become a
Mhm.
vampire.
Yep.
So
Yep.
because if you become a vampire, like you never get a chance to be at peace, you know. So she wanted to like die instead of becoming a vampire. So there was an opportunity he had to like help grant that wish for her.
So
And,
real
killed her.
quick, okay, I got a quick side note here. Being a vampire didn't look like it was that bad.
No, not bad at all. I mean, it could be worse.
You know, I mean, they were having a good time. They looked happy.
Great
They
music. I mean, yeah, sure, you got to find some blood. You got to find some people every so often to.
can't see the sun. You got to hide, at nighttime and stuff. But you live forever. Feel great. Like you're this good energy. Like had a really, really like positive vibe.
Good dancers. Yeah, hey, it's not the worst thing.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. It's not the worst thing. So I thought they had a good. Remick had a good sales pitch. I thought about it, and obviously that the story then kind of breaks into two parts.
Yeah.
Obviously, Smoke and Stack end up fighting, having an awesome fight,
Fighting each other.
which is a great fight.
So again, Stack is the vampire, Smoke is the non-vampire,
Yep.
and it gets to the point at the end where, at least in the fight aspect of things, Smoke looks like he has the advantage,
Yeah.
and like it's over. You know what I mean? He's gonna kill Stack as the vampire, but they don't show it again.
Yeah.
You know, so that comes to a resolution after a great fight. Things kind of move outside, and it's kind of becoming dawn a little bit. You can tell the sun's going to rise soon. Sammy ends up in the water. He has this guitar that's kind of been with him since the beginning of the movie. It has this silver metal plate in it, and he uses that to smash Remick in the head with it, and the metal piece from it just kind of like goes deep into his head and ultimately kills him. So it was kind of interesting how like this guitar was such a big thing for him through his life and symbolic of his music and his talents and all that stuff. And that's the tool that is used to ultimately kill the head vampire guy.
And he was the head vampire. So it's interesting because Remick, when the silver went through his head, all the other vampires seemed to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't kill them, but they felt the pain.
Yep.
Then when the sun rose, that's what ended up
They were all gone.
killing them. Yeah.
But again, you thought that they all died. You didn't see what happened to Stack.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see what happened necessarily to Mary.
Yep.
But everyone else was pretty much dead at that point.
Yep.
Was Smoke gravely injured at that point?
No.
He was not.
No.
He was kind of left there in the morning by himself.
Yeah. Well, no,
Kinda
he told Sammy, he was with Sammy in the water. He told Sammy to leave and go back, and he was going to take care of something. He knew something was coming because of, again, not to like get too much in the weeds, but he had kind of a heads up from Remick because of the people he turned that something was going to
So the Klansmen only sold them the place with the intention of coming there the next day or at the end of the party to kill all the black people that were in it.
Yeah.
So at that point, he got a heads up on that. All the vampires are gone. It's just Smoke and that building left. So he had a whole bunch of guns and it kind of a little bit of like a Rambo type thing. It was. I didn't expect this last scene to happen the way it did. Basically, he's freaking hiding in the woods, buries guns. 20 Klansmen come back to the building that morning, ready to freaking kill everyone, only to find no one there.
Yeah.
And then Smoke's like sniping them from the woods, and then comes out Rambo style and freaking machine guns them all.
Yeah.
Thought it was pretty good.
Kills them all, and that's where he gets shot in the crossfire, and then fatally, like it's a matter of time. He got shot right in the abdomen, and he was ready to go, and had a great scene at the end where he saw Annie and his baby, and it was beautifully shot, acted, and kind of right before he died.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of showed that he was at peace with his death.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those guys had a ton of peace in their life, so it was kind of nice for him to have that in his death. So, but he killed all the Klansmen, So I thought that was pretty cool. And then it kind of gets us back to the point that we started the movie with Sammy going to see his dad.
Yep.
And I think it's something to the effect like his dad wants him to like see God in that moment.
Yep.
And instead, Sammy just like freaking. It was like he would have to give up his music to to turn to God. And he just went the other way.
Yep.
And he took his talents and just left. And that's kind of how the movie ended.
And then with a flash forward. And at that moment, it was a flash forward.
Well, that is the first post-credit scene.
Well, no, before the post-credit scene. It's before the post-credit scene. It's before that where it jumps up to 1992, and you see the scars across this old blues player's face.
Yeah, because he does have some very distinct scars,
Yep.
and that's kind of built into the
Yep.
logo of
Yep.
his music place or whatever.
And then Sammy looks like he became an incredibly famous and popular blues musician in Chicago and stuff. And he's playing a song, and then that's how the credits start rolling into that scene. So that's how it ends.
Which is a great
thing.
Which is a great ending right there. You know, that's what he went on to be. He had a choice to make at the end after giving everything that he knows and went through. Like, he made that decision to like double down on his music because that was his gift, and he lived this life up to that point and was a famous, musician, which was a great ending.
Yeah, great ending. So, and during the credits, and again, this isn't a Marvel movie. This isn't like a so you're like, a lot of people probably were like, the movie's done. Like, let's leave. All done. And then they get a nice little mid-credit scene.
Yeah, so Sammy's the mid-credit scene is Sammy's back in the back room, and then who comes walking in, and it's freaking Stack and Mary.
Yep.
Dressed in like 90s attire.
Right, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air like attire.
Flat top, and they come walking in looking like the way they did in 1930, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you come to find out, getting back to the last battle between Smoke and Stack, that Smoke had an opportunity to kill him, and he did not kill him, and he made Stack promise him that he wouldn't kill Sammy and that he'd watch over him his whole life. You know what I mean? And this is them revealing that they were still like vampires to him all these years later. And they had a little bit of a conversation. They talked about how, being a vampire is not so bad, kind of like what you're saying. Tried to make a case like, if you want, we could make you a vampire too. You live forever. And Sammy ultimately passed on that. But it was kind of cool to see that conversation. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, so it's like they have a code. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting that there was still like enough of human Stack in him and enough of a relationship with his brother and connection with his brother that he honored a promise. You know what I mean? If I'm a freaking vampire, you know what I mean? It was almost, 60 years later. Like, if I'm a vampire, I'd say anything and then do whatever. You know what I mean? But he still ended up, honoring that. And so you could tell, and even Mary's character, like, it's weird. There was a sense of humanity in them, which was interesting.
They looked like they were having a great time. They were going to probably go to the club after this.
Sign me up, man. You know what I mean? I'm telling you. It's like they're awesome.
I wouldn't choose that as my first path, but I guess if it happened, it's just
terrible. There are worse things that could happen. You know what I mean? So worse things that could happen.
So I left after this scene, not knowing that there's a second post-credit scene. I think it's a pretty quick one, and
it wasn't much
about it, but like, tell me about it.
So all it is, so then you got to wait for the full credits to go through, and then it's Sammy in the church. So it must have been obviously before all of this, in the church with his guitar playing "This Little Light of Mine" is the song that he.
What'd you read about? What did you read into on that? And then anything you hear about? Because I've seen people interpret that as like that's him being dead and like in the afterlife, that's like heaven for him playing music back there. But I didn't even see the scene, so I just wasn't sure if you walked away with any thoughts.
I didn't walk away with anything. I mean, it could. I don't know. You maybe have that impression. I just thought it was to him before because the guitar was in the church when he went to get it to see his dad. So I just thought it was just him playing the guitar. But I totally could see that. Yeah. There's like, it's literally one shot, a minute of him singing a song, and then he looks up. That's the only thing that he looks like sideways. I don't know if he looks like he maybe sees something or sees someone, and then it kind of cuts. That was the only part that it kind of happened quick, but it wasn't as important to me as the first mid-credit scene, which actually added a ton to the story.
So that's the movie, which we just spent freaking 35 minutes talking about it, but like, I thought it was a really good movie. The first time, again, I can remember being totally surprised by a movie, then seeing it and then really loving it. And I know people will say it's a vampire movie, and it probably is, but I do feel like it's more than that, to me at least. It's like a drama period piece that has vampire aspects, and I think any awards that it was in the conversation for would probably be well-deserved. I mean, I don't know that it wins Best Picture, but performances should be recognized, the score should be recognized, the director should be recognized. Like, it's a great movie. It's
crazy to say, you know what I mean? Because there's just so many parallels and like similarities, especially because of the two main people involved. But it's very, very much like Black Panther in a sense of like this is a superhero movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's dumb superhero movie, follows the formula, but that movie ended up being a juggernaut and meant so much to so many people. Ended up being nominated for Best Picture that year. You know what I mean? The only superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture. It's kind of like that, where it's like it's more than a vampire movie. It's like it's Coogler just has such a great way of creating these characters and telling a story in such like an authentic way that just captivates people. And this is one of the few movies that it's like gaining steam. You know, I think I said you want one of these things where like the word of mouth for this project is so powerful that it was the smallest drop off from week 1 to week 2 for an R-rated movie like ever. Which
I think it's more than just an R-rated movie. If I'm being completely honest with you,
I
think it's just any movie. The box office dropped 4.8% from week 1 to week 2, which a normal movie is like 50-60%. So that's an unheard of drop off. And honestly, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if it freaking went up. You know, I mean, Thunderbolts is coming out, so it's gonna be a little hard for that to happen. But I wouldn't have been surprised if that number was positive. And again, I feel like I'm in an echo chamber sometime because my social media is like all about this movie, people praising it, and it's just all that I see. So it's easy for me to think that that's like what's going on. But I don't know, dude. When a movie only drops 4.8% from week to week, it maybe it does go beyond my little echo chamber, and people are hearing about this movie and going to see it after their word of mouth.
And that, you know, what that reminds me of is Terrifier, which, you know, we spoke about in the past, but like a word of mouth movie that just like gained steam and people talk about it. And again, like you said, Thunderbolts is coming out this week, so I think it'll be tough because Thunderbolts, I believe, we'll see, but it's tracking at like 170 million. I think
170 million bucks. So I mean,
which I hope they do. You know, I hope it does do that. But Sinners, you know, it's already well made more money than what it cost, and will only continue.
$90 million to $100 million budget.
Yeah,
it's trending towards 400 million total between domestic and worldwide box office. So, dude, freaking well done. 98% Rotten Tomatoes. I've heard some people make a big deal out of this, that Ryan Coogler gets ownership of the movie after 25 years. I don't know anything about anything, but to me, whatever. You know, and that sounds like a thing that exists, but people make it seem like it's a very unique thing for him. But good for him. 25 years, this could be, like, Sinners could be a thing.
This is one that I like, want to see again. I won't until it comes out, but I'll probably buy it because it's a 2-hour movie, great story. It's a movie I would definitely see again.
Great music. Great score. It's super rewatchable in my opinion.
So yeah, we spent 40 minutes on Sinners, which is great. It deserves it. So
yeah, go see Sinners. Do you want to see a Sinners 2, or leave it Sinners 1 the way it is? The Sinners, that's it.
I mean, I kind of like it being isolated, but I mean, if I see a Haley Steinfeld, Michael B. Jordan, you know, Sinners 2, Coogler's involved,
rom-com for them, you know, just a little.
And then it brings it. I mean, I would see Coogler is now. We talk about this. He's on the short list of Nolan, Villeneuve, PTA. Like he's gonna when he makes a movie, it's like you gotta see it, you know. So
yeah, I mean, he has a couple $1 billion worth of box office under his belt with the movies that he's made, so he's into that category of the guys that you mentioned. So it's a big deal when he makes a movie, and I think his stock's only going up. Wish I would have bought some.
38 years old. 38. The other guys we're talking about are in their 50s, 60s. 38 years old.
So he's like that next wave, that next wave. And again, that video I sent you was so weird with the way he talked about movies, but it's just, you could see his passion for movies and just the intricacies of it and the way he views things is totally different than me and you see things. You know, I mean, maybe me more than you, I should say, but like this, the way he films a movie, that dude's a movie maker, and it's pretty cool to see.
And with the technology only improving, it's only going to get better. So he's like, no matter what he does, like he's now on the list of like, got to see the Coogler movie.
So one other aspect that could be cool. So you talk about the Stack and Mary movie, but what would be cool is the Remick movie.
Prequel.
So there was, I don't know where it was, but there is some supporting outside the movie type lore that's out there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was on a website or they shared on their social media, but there was like a news article of an immigrant coming over from a boat into Boston and they finding everyone on the boat dead and the person kind of taking off, and that supposedly being like Remick's origin into the United States. So like basically came to Boston from Ireland, killed everyone as a vampire, and then just kind of made his way down to Mississippi, made his way down the East Coast, down to Mississippi. And I mean, the things that dude might have done in that period of time could be a movie on its own, which would be cool.
Absolutely. No, that I am into this lore for sure. And vampire lore is great. So it was a good take on a vampire movie too. So great. So,
All right, go see Sinners if you haven't seen it. Hopefully this motivates you. At this point, if you listen to any of this, it's freaking spoiled to hell.
But definitely. Oh, but hopefully people that have seen it and listen to this can, they liked it as well. So.
Okay, ready to move on to the next thing?
Yes.
Celtic City.
Yep.
9-part documentary. When I heard that this was coming out, whenever it was 6 months ago, I was freaking pumped. Like I equated that to The Last Dance for the documentary that came out from Michael Jordan. This was being produced by, again, our boy Bill Simmons. All in. Last Dance is probably like a bigger deal in the culture at the time, but dude, Celtic City is freaking very, very well done. I was so impressed with every single episode. Basically, it went, started back in the 60s with Bill Russell stuff, and then it just kind of went through every era of the Celtics, which there are a lot, enough to easily fill the 9 episodes. I mean, dude, these are names and championships and things that I was aware of, but to hear the in-depth on each era over 9 hours, basically, I was blown away by how good it was.
So when Last Dance came out, it was right at the beginning of COVID. I think they actually like upped the release of it, so everyone was like, that was a big moment. So this definitely isn't quite that, but this is the best like sports documentary series I've seen since The Last Dance. And it was one of those where, again, you're like kind of thinking, it starts off like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Like, it's going to be great. It's going to be good. But like, do I want to sit through a few hours of like the 40s and the 50s and like the really black and white stuff, and basketball isn't basketball?
It is tough. It's tougher to get. It's tougher to get
started. I think I think I started it when 5 episodes are already released. Mm-hmm. Once I started watching it, I could not stop. I watched all 5 episodes, I think, in 2.5 days. Yeah. I was glued to my screen with just, again, these are names: Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, John Havlicek, David Cowens, JoJo White, like all names that, as a 38-year-old, I heard of growing up, and you hear Simmons talk about them. I had obviously Bill Russell, how many championships he won, I knew of his lore, but like didn't really know the story of these guys and the games that they played and how they won. And I was just like, as like a Celtics fan, I was embarrassed that I didn't know that, but I was happy that I'm able to have this awesome, resource to be able to watch this stuff and get really authentic storytelling from it.
What a great thing to have as a Celtics fan, though. Like you said, you've heard some of it, but like, it's the perfect way to kind of catch up even people like us or future generations on the history of the Celtics. I've always known that Boston had the reputation as like a racist city. Mm-hmm. But just seeing that stuff and talking about the different neighborhoods and talking about exactly what Bill Russell went through and his kind of disdain for Boston, honestly, like he considered himself a Celtic, but like didn't really care as much about the Boston aspect of things. I thought they did a really good job of portraying that. Mm-hmm. And they did a great job with using interviews from outside of what they did for the, like just old interviews, repurposing them. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how all that stuff works and rights and all that stuff, but like Bill Russell had a very prominent role in the documentary, and guy's been dead for a number of years. Mm-hmm. They just used a bunch of interviews from him. So it took me a half of the first episode to get into it, but after that I was all in. And that old stuff took, what was that, 3 or 4 episodes?
I don't think we got to Larry Bird until end of 4. You know what I mean? Because there's that many championships. Bill Russell won 11 championships in 13 years.
Yeah. So great Red Auerbach stuff.
Yeah.
Great Bill Russell stuff. Great Bob Cousy stuff. Havlicek stuff. That's like one thing. And then it's like still Red Auerbach, who was in this whole thing basically. And like you said, Dave Cowens and Casey Jones. And like those things those guys seemed like they were freaking awesome. I mean, how lucky were the Celtics to have that run? It's insane.
Bill Russell, again, 11 championships in 13 years. And he had only two as a player coach. He was a freaking player and the coach of the team. You know what I mean? The first black coach in the league. Like, it was, they did an incredible job of portraying, like you said, the racism of Boston, but like also the other good stuff that Boston did too. And it's simple. It's just not black and white. It's complicated. And even up to like the Jaylen Brown stuff of him getting booed when he got drafted and like his kind of hearing about the city being racist, but he's just saying it's complicated, you know?
But they did a good job portraying it. And honestly, Bill Russell seems like, what a guy what a life, what a figure. How lucky are we to have a guy like Bill Russell in Boston as a Celtic? Guy is like a legitimate legend, like how thoughtful he is and just the role he played in like race relations and all just the stuff he did for his community and just Dude, he was the man. You know, I'm
Unbelievable.
glad that by the end he made amends with the city of Boston,
Yep.
was able to be appreciated, and now number 6 is a thing league wide. He's definitely one of the goats.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever fully understood why Simmons or anyone really put him in that top tier
Yeah.
of players, like 60s, whatever. I mean, I'm sure he was good back then, but like his stats were never as good as Wilt Chamberlain. They kind of talked about that, but he had the winning, and he has like an it factor to him that just goes above and beyond even the championships or his individual skill. Like there's no doubt he's one of the greatest.
It was so good for him to get his due. So that aspect of it was all awesome. But then leading up into more like the '90s, where we kind of grew up, the other part with me was like the Len Bias and the Reggie.
Can we talk about Larry Bird though first?
Okay, yeah, yeah, of course. Sorry, yeah.
Because Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Parrish highlights never like that. Dude, that's must have been awesome to be a Celtics person back then. Like Larry, I still can't believe Larry Bird was as good as he was. It like doesn't even make any sense because there's part of me that buys into what Isaiah Thomas said about him. You know, like if he was black, he'd just be like another guy. Like, but he really isn't. You know, he really was like so good. And to see his highlights, where it's incredible. And he definitely has like an attitude. Kind of like an FU attitude to him.
Yep.
That comes across a certain way. What a great time to be a Celtics fan in the 80s.
80s were, and the stuff obviously with Magic and the Lakers and the matchups and like constantly getting to the finals. And I freaking, it was great. I love the 80s stuff is again, kind of remember like seeing the highlights in the 90s and then hearing, obviously knowing who Larry Bird was and all that kind of stuff. But to really see how good they were as a team was just great.
That was good to be reminded how it kind of all ended for them too, because again, that was me as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, something like that. So you hear about things, but like that was really a good way to kind of refocus on how that all went down. I was surprised Michael Jordan didn't have a bigger role in the documentary. I don't even know if they showed Michael Jordan because the Celtics never really battled them. Maybe that one series where Michael.
So
what's that?
It was the Pistons. So the Celtics passed the torch to the Pistons, and then the Pistons passed the torch to the Bulls. So they were like one
exactly. So there wasn't a direct transition to the Bulls, and it wouldn't be about them. But I'm surprised we didn't really see Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan did have like one of those 63-point games in the Garden. That was a big deal. I wasn't sure if they would show that at all. Didn't really talk about them at all. But it was interesting to me how the Celtics always like had a clear transition. Like all the way up to that Larry Bird, McHale, Parrish era. And then it looked like it was going to happen with the Len Bias. And I've heard this story a bunch of times too, but like guys like he's like a Michael Jordan equivalent. And we just got so fortunate to be able to draft him. And everyone's so excited to have him. I couldn't stop but imagine what could have been if he had like a whole career. And, he would have been our Michael Jordan through the 90s. And he died of a cocaine overdose. Or was it a heart thing?
They don't, I mean, again...
And maybe used to think it was more of a drug thing, but maybe they made it seem like it was more of a medical thing. But it happened within 2 days of the draft. He got drafted one night, and then the next night into the following morning, he was dead.
And there's a really good 30 for 30 out there that dives into specifically like Len Bias and like all that stuff kind of happened. So like that happened, and they still had Bird. They still, I think, were a winning team afterwards. The thing that really blew my mind was the Reggie Lewis stuff. I didn't really know. Like the collapsing on the court, like him getting multiple opinions and one doctor kind of clearing him, and then him like collapsing during a shoot around. Like I did not realize that. Like I don't think
I realized that either. I actually do remember all that stuff happening. That was the time when maybe I was starting to go to more Celtics games with Dad. Like I remember getting D Brown's autograph. I remember getting Reggie Lewis's autograph. I wish I still had those things, but we would go to these games and he was definitely like the guy. And it was cool to see how the show made him seem like he really was like a big deal. Went to Northeastern, which I don't think I realized. And the whole thing with the heart, like it's obviously heartbreaking. Anytime someone dies, like, but you see this guy who has like the world at his fingertips and he's going to be the guy. All these kids look up to him, people look up to him, and that clip of him just running down the court and collapsing.
That was like crazy. Like it's like uncomfortable to watch.
It's like I don't know that happened before or since. Like I can't even think of another time. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people snap their legs, and I want to puke when that stuff happens. But in terms of like someone legitimately collapsing on the court in the middle of a game, with like a heart issue. I don't even know that there's equivalent for it.
The equivalent to me that first thing that comes to mind is like DeMar Hamlin, which is like,
Yeah.
but that was even one step further because they actually brought him back to life. But like how scary that is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that was like a big hit, physical. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Like that is somewhere in that same conversation. But like, dude, just a guy jogging back, not like an impact, not an injury, just freaking collapsing.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and then two guys dying for the Celtics within what, a 5-year period or 6-year period, whatever it was.
well, yeah, you get those two guys.
This happened in the league. It would have been a big news. It happened in the same freaking team.
And then you get to the Paul Pierce, and then transition to the end, and Paul Pierce gets stabbed, 11 or 13 times?
11 times he got stabbed.
11 times, and it looks like he's going to legitimately die. And
the doctor thought he was going to die.
And then they talk about,
His
like you just said, is the other Celtics cursed?
Yeah.
Like 3 potential deaths in a period of time. That stuff never happens.
Yeah.
You know, like, when's the last time, like, a legitimate star died in the middle of the season?
Not even to like downplay like any like non-stars, but like there would have literally been 3 of like the top players.
Yeah, exactly.
On the team.
But like, just I mean, these guys are all elite athletes. They're all in generally good shape. Like it's just, I mean, knock on wood, like that stuff doesn't really happen. So for it to happen to the way it did to the Celtics was just a wild thing. But obviously, Paul Pierce survived, which is freaking awesome. Paul Pierce is the freaking man.
That Garnett, Ray Allen, because I have such. That was like when we like obviously we were in our prime of like watching stuff. But I remember watching them win the championship at your house that night. That season was just so much fun when that happened.
And we watched every game. I think we watched like mostly every game together, and it was that team was, and they did a good job portraying because they were such a good team. Like they were. It's one of those times where you add these few pieces, and the next thing you know, you go from the worst team in the league to like the freaking best team in the league, and it wasn't even close. Like I think they were tested a little bit in the playoffs, but like that was a good team right from the beginning of the season, right through the championship. It was awesome. The thing that I was sad about was just how short-lived it ended up being. When you see it, you know, like the KG injury that ends up happening the next year, the fact that they just kind of ran out of gas at the end against the Lakers. I mean, dude, we were up freaking 3-2 against the Lakers.
Remember, Perkins got hurt, and that like was just enough. You know,
and we were up like 14, 15 points in the fourth.
Damn.
Like they were showing how like Kobe was, I think it was Bill Plaskey maybe was talking about like how he freaking was dreaming about this game, and then he ends up going 6 for 24, and like basically it's like a really shit game. And that if we win that and we have 2 championships in 3 years, that changes Kobe's career.
Absolutely. Yeah, because
you know, Kobe's the man. So like he's definitely an all-timer as well. But like, dude, we freaking had that one, and then it was never the same after that.
They didn't even show the end, like, which is crazy. And the one thing that the only great memory is like, remember the end of that game, like Ron Artest hit this like huge 3 off this like rebound, and like that was a crazy game. And then like the Rondo era, like I remember Rondo was freaking awesome. Like watching Rondo was so good with that. And so the final episode kind of leading into like Tatum. It was a great night last night. Last night I watched Celtic City and then right into like the Celtics game of them like winning, you know, round 1. And just I'm like, we are so damn lucky to have Tatum and Brown and Missoula and the team that we have, because we are in the glory days. Like right now, again, you know, they're just an awesome team to watch.
I have to remind myself to enjoy it in the moment because next year could be a totally different team. There's talks of like them not being able to keep everyone together. Is it Kristaps that's gone? Is it freaking Drew Holiday that's gone, or whoever? You know, like how long do we have Tatum and Brown? It's you watch these 9 episodes and all the errors, and you see that like you just have these small windows in time with these people, and then they move on. You know, and we're definitely in the thick of another one of those. We're so lucky though, dude. The fact that Danny traded KG and Paul Pierce, and I'm glad like those guys still consider themselves Celtics. I'm glad that Paul Pierce is like at all the games and he feels like he's part of the team, and KG does after only 5 years. But like he traded those guys, man, and that's what set us up for what we have now. It's freaking crazy.
And Tatum is special, man. Obviously Brown won MVP and Tatum had struggles in the finals or whatever last year, but man, he is special. Watching him last night in the series, like he has just gone up a level, and I feel really good. I mean, about the East at least. I mean, Cleveland's obviously been playing great, but like
Cleveland
OKC is
won 50 points the other day.
Next level, but like we're good, man. We're good. We won by 30 last night. We didn't hit a 3-pointer in the first half. You know, so
my hope is that in 10 years from now, Simmons does like a 10th episode.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And have another run.
Because I feel like this is something that they could add to for years, depending on how Celtics go on. But we're lucky because Celtics are one of those franchises. Yep. You know, they just sold for $6 billion. Like, we're lucky to have a home team franchise that matters in the NBA, that has meaning to everyone from the area and are good and competitive. And love the doc, love the C's, fired up for the playoffs.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was everything you want as a Celtics fan, and I cannot recommend it enough. So
yep. All right, so we're freaking putting on some minutes here.
You can wrap up here.
Wrap it up for now?
Well, no, I gotta talk. I gotta just give me 2 minutes on
talk about it.
To me, one of the best shows. I feel like I say that a lot, so it's hard because like with things like the Penguin and like all things we talked about early in the year, where it was like, oh, this is one of the best shows. The Pitt, which is takes place on Max. It's 15 episodes. 1 hour is a shift at an ER in Pittsburgh. It's kind of shot in real time, like 24. Noah Wiley, famous from ER, plays a doctor. Show's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite things I've watched in a while, and I'm not the only person that thinks this. Online, people love it, and it's a great show, and I hope more people watch it. So
it seems like, again, all the shows that we're watching right now, I feel like are all part of the conversation, but probably none more than the Pitt. Like the Pitt's all over my social media. Everyone that I follow in that entertainment space is all about that show. Obviously, you are too. It seems like it's a lock to win all the awards.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I can't wait for next year because it's like the Emmys is like it's going to be like Adam Scott versus Noah Wiley versus the White Lotus guys versus you know what I mean, like all different.
Great
TV right now, and the Pitt. I mean, literally on paper should not have worked. It's like Noah Wiley's playing a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how original. You know what I mean?
And every episode's going to be an hour. It's like,
yeah, it just doesn't like you think it's not gonna work, but it just works. And it got renewed for season 2. Season 2 is going to be coming out next year. It's going to do a 10-month jump. All the characters are good, and it really does a really good job of painting the healthcare workers, and like these people are freaking amazing, and
I mean, thank goodness there are people that do that job because I could not do it, and I have a loan going with an ER nurse, and I'm just like, dude, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, what the you see stuff every day that I would freaking pass out on if I did. Does the show make you squeamish at all anytime?
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, I mean, if you can't handle that, close your eyes, icky, whatever. But like, it's not real. It's not real. It's all prosthetics. It's all every time you see that stuff, just have an appreciation for the practical effect team and what they're doing because it's amazing. But yes, there was one time, I'm not going to say anything, but there was one time where Heather and I had to like fast forward something like.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not the only one that has done that. I've heard that similar from a lot of people that there's one part that is really, really hard to watch. It shows the true things that happen in an ER, the bad and the good. You know what I mean? Like, and the one thing, I'm obviously not a healthcare worker, but what I think helped this show catch so much steam is that like ER doctors, nurses, healthcare people have like reached out to the show and been like, this is the most accurate portrayal of an ER room that has ever been made. They had doctors. Like, honestly, if something happened to me, I think I would feel comfortable with Noah Wiley, like, diagnosing it. Like, I really do. Like, I think he knows his stuff enough that he would be able to, like, get me 80% there. So, anyway, that's all. That's my...
I don't know if I see it, if I'm being honest with you. I know. Not because it doesn't sound interesting, because I also like being part of those conversations, too, but I feel like the longer I wait, the more I miss the window, and then it's like, oh, shit,
I think what's going to happen is just so much going on right now. I think season 2 is supposed to be coming back in January of next year. I think you'll jump on to get ready for season 2.
Yeah.
So maybe November or December.
But I mean, I love hearing you talk about it, so thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. So.
Talk about it on the pod. Listen, there's nothing else to say. That was a fun episode. I'm glad we spent so much time on Sinners. Glad we got to Celtic City. I'm glad you were able to talk about the Pitt. We are watching a bunch of other things parallel to all that too. So in another few weeks, we'll do another episode and we can kind of tackle all those things. That sounds good with you.
Sounds good, bud. A lot and some good movies coming out too, which I'm hoping to get to the theater at least one more time. Either you and I to see, not together, probably separately, but Thunderbolts or Mission Impossible. It's coming in the next couple of weeks.
When's Mission Impossible? It's in May, right?
Mission Impossible is end of May. I think before Memorial Day weekend.
So maybe we can both try to see that before our next pod and make that be a thing as well. So
awesome.
All right, bud. Good talk.
Great time. Thanks.
All right. See you, bud.